안녕하세요. Hello,
Namaste.
everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the IKF podcast. I am your host, Bagmita, with my co host,
Jerta her.
and we are today sitting down with the author, one of the authors of our IKF India brief, which was recently launched at Seoul, South Korea, in front of a whole panel of distinguished policymakers, researchers, diplomats from different fields of work who joined us in our flagship IKF AI event, which maybe we'll talk about a little bit later. But with each episode, we try to explore not just research in itself, but also the thinking, the evidence, and policy conversations which shape our work at IKF. So, for today's discussion, we are going to focus on one of the most important and strategic questions of our time: who will control the technologies of future, and what role do critical minerals play at that race? Joining us today is the author of The Global Race for Critical Technologies, India, Korea, and the Semiconductor Mineral Nexus, published in the very first publication of the IKF India brief. We have Valli with us in the podcast today. Thank you so much, Valli, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Valli. Thank you so much for joining us. Your research is really important to the India Korea Forum and what we have been focusing on, especially around AI technologies. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, like where you're from, your educations, maybe things that you've interned at or places you've worked? Please let us know.
Yeah, ma'am. My name is Vijay Olistri. I hold bachelor degree in agriculture. I passed out in 2024, and currently I'm pursuing environmental law and policy in National Law University Delhi with collaboration with WWF India. I authored the paper called Critical Technology Mineral Nexus on the Semiconductor Global Race. Since I got inspired the title, the piece, because as India has a global resources of raw element, rare earth element, but still we didn't expose the processing facilities. We just export a raw material. We doesn't have the refinery technology. So we lost the market value. It's like it's 20 percentage greater value. We just importing like 0.5 percentage value, but we are losing 20 percentage. We are losing billions of dollars just because we are exporting raw ore. So we lacks in technologies. We don't have refinery technologies. Currently, we have mineral sources from all over India. Recently, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on July 4, he opened the semiconductor hub in Sanat, Gujarat. This is the first initiative that India took in semiconductor sector. We have Atmanika Bharat, that means Make in India. This is the first initiative took by Gujarat, and PM inaugurated that event. So we are growing day by day. Since we are ahead of China, because China built a 30-year ahead because they have every technology and they are a dominant player. So every world is forced to buy from them. So they hold the supply chain. So we don't have any other choices. So we should buy from them because we lack refinery technology. So whereas there is an Korea Institute for Economic Policy, they told in 2020 they are dependent on 24% on gallium. In last year they were at 98%, so which is increasing significantly from 24 to 98%. It is a huge dependency for Korea. If one country controls the supply chain, so there is no choice. We should obey the rules what the other dominant countries are paying us. Maybe they will give a tariff, they will force us some implementation about you should buy this much amount. So day by day we are increasingly dependent on China because yeah, they build a semiconductor hub for more than 30 years, but still we lack from them. But UK and Australia has some technology, so we can bypass from China. But China is a dominant player because they are producing more semiconductor grade chip. because we need 99.99% purity. Since every country and nation lacks, but Taiwan is doing right now. Taiwan is controlled by China, but UN didn't recognize Taiwan as a separate country. But it does have a strategic partnership with other countries. In, for example, in India also we have a strategic partnership with Taiwan in many fabrication technology. But since China has a control over Taiwan, but Taiwan is self-declared as we are a separate country, though we can't legally sign the agreement between these two countries. So this is why I got inspiration to do my research, because India has the mineral. Korea doesn't have minerals, but Korea has technology. Why both the country move towards and create a new global power that we can self-reliant rather than depending on China. We can be self-reliant in whatever we have. Maybe we will lack some technologies, but we can get from Western like Australia and UK. We will get a technology transfer. So Korea is advanced in industrial and technology transfer. So we will have a bilateral partnership or quadrilateral partnership. So we can make ready-made chips. Even though we have more resources than China, we lack the refinery technology. So that makes incredibly disappointing the market value of India. That's what inspired to take this research.
That's
Yeah.
also good to know, Valli. I think research is driven by passion and an objective. It does serve a big purpose. Coming back, for someone who is completely new to this topic, what exactly are critical minerals and why should the ordinary people, I'm saying the citizens, care about them? What is your opinion on that?
Yeah. For example, now we are in a meeting, like we are different places. Co-host Jarta, she is from California. Yeah, yeah. Like we all are from different time zone. So which is still connecting us, the technology. Am I right? Every digital technology needs chip. So without chip, we don't access this meeting. We can't connect with each other. So chip lies in everywhere. So I think maybe oil won't be a great war in as of today. Next war will going to be a critical technology holder. As we know, China is the dominant player. So next war will be, in my guess, because everything lies today is electronic technologies, EV cars, missile, naval technology, everything needs semiconductor, phone, everything needs semiconductor. So without semiconductor, we can't access day-to-day events. We will lack content from other countries if we don't have the supply chain for a critical technology. So we can't able to manufacture digital, like for EV cars, missile, naval technology, laptop, mobile, everything. Now every country is signing green carbon. So EV cars play a major role. They need to have lithium battery because we have our digital screen in cars. We can have the automatization like backward, frontward, in reverse gear. We have the display, which is an electronic, which is backed up by semiconductor, which is backed by minerals. So it will cause major disruption day to day life. We can't able to see the daily news. It will affect the broadcasting everywhere. We can't do anything if semiconductor and the chip import and export has the vulnerability and control over single dominance resources. We don't know. I don't know what happened to the. We will be like a pandemic, like how we have experienced like a COVID. Critical mineral technology will be serves as a major global point. Most strategic partnership will be a mineral who will have the power to control the next mineral partnership. So we should go first. We should move ahead. So that's what.
Oh, thank you so much, Larry, for talking about that. I actually think what you're talking about relates very heavily to what you wrote in the India Korea brief, where you're talking about like the phrase, the value that vanishes. What does that phrase mean to you as the author of this article?
Like the value of.
Yes, the value that vanishes. Why'd you start with
Like
that line?
because as I said earlier, we just only export around. So we are losing the market value. We just capture a tiny fraction amount where some countries exported minerals from India and they get processing and they're selling back to India for 20 into X power value. So we are the owner of the raw earth element minerals. But since we lack technologies, we are forced to buy 20 into X value of the ready-made chip. So that's as an Indian, we have the sources, we have the minerals. Why should we need to export our raw material and we should buy back from them with more market value? That disappoints me. We have the raw ore element, mineral, graphite, lithium, gallium. We all have abundant resources. Tamil Nadu, Odisha, Gujarat. These are states of India which has a mineral resources. But still many countries, just they have technology, how they are playing with the just importing raw materials and they paying back and they willingnessly, forcefully, they can ask us to buy because we don't have alternative sources. We should buy. Though we lacking technology, refinery technology, we should buy. So I thought no other country should depend not more than around 40 to 50%. Like we are losing our sovereignty. Though we have the raw ore, we have the raw. The title was inspired because we Indians have the raw earth minerals and raw ore. Since we are exporting this, we lack the market value. We just had the tiny proportion value. So, which will be a significant drawback for Indian economy because we have million and trillion dollars of the resources. Still, we export to other countries because we lack the refinery system. And these countries are making this chip and back to India, we forcefully to buy the chips with a greater value amount. So that disappoints me. We have the element, we have the resources. Why should we start our own manufacture, processing, fabrication technology rather than depending on the other countries who have the refinery technologies? Every country think of that angle. We have the raw material. Why should we give back to other country and they export will double the amount of value and which also reduce the economic value of India. If we have technology, like our country will be soon, we will reach an economic index value about or second place or third place. When we found we had the refinery technology, we will be in the list of economic developed country. We will be on third or fourth place. Though we are currently in sixth place, Japan surpassed in this year about May or June, I don't know. 2025, we are third or fourth place. Right now, we push back to sixth place in economic scale. If we have the refinery technologies, then we will capture the places. So that's the line meaning of the value disappears, the value vanishes.
That's very interesting because in your article, you are also arguing that it is not just extraction, but processing where the actual, the real value lies. So, is this because of this very reason that you have given that argument that we should focus on processing, not extraction?
Not extraction, like we need the processing facilities. We have a technology to extract minerals. Since we signed May 2024 in UK, we have signed, they have the extraction technology. So it doesn't lack that much extraction, mineral extraction process, but we majorly lack just for refining technology because we need the purity value of 99.99%, so which is hard to get that 99.99 percentage semiconductor grade chip material. So we find difficulties to process the fabrication chip. So that's the reason we are lacking behind in semiconductor and mineral industries. So extracting the mineral, we have technology. So it's not about, it lies a small proportion compared to mineral extraction. We have morely depend on the fabrication technology. So that's play a major role in semiconductor and mineral nexus.
Oh, Valli, with what you're talking about, actually, South Korea seems to be a major player in this conversation around semiconductors. And South Korea has already developed its own processes and ecosystems around semiconductors. But why does it still need India? Where do you think India fits into the current ecosystem of semiconductors with South Korea?
Yeah, India as the more populated country than China. We surpassed China like 2 to 3 years before, if I'm not wrong. As Korea and Japan, these are the two Asian countries which are low birth rate and low population, and the aging population are more. But India is vice versa. We have youth population. We have the labor forces. where Japan and Korea are lacking. Really invested before July first week or June, I don't know. They invested 10 million yen. They invested in India about naval technology, like in Anata for maritime security. What they made mind to invest in India because we have more populated country and we have more labor forces compared to Japan and Korea. So every country looking to have the value in India. So India will become a global player in next 2 years, in 3 years. Recently, Australian Prime Minister Green Phillips, he had the conversation about the country's pensioner. They are ready to invest in India because India is a developing country. So they will have the high returns slowly and steadily. So they are looking for Indians to invest their pensioner money in India. Same way, Korea has the technology, but Korea doesn't own. There is only two concepts. India has a mineral but lacks from technology refinery, where Korea has technology refineries, but it doesn't have their own mineral. So by combining these two countries, we will have a good strategic partner. So India will have their own market value, and Korea will not depend on China because it shows the vulnerability. 98% in single, it's not good news for Korean. Our industry like HD Hyundai company, they're heavily depend on chip grade material. So 98% will be because single country is dominating. Maybe they will have their own role. Maybe we don't know. Depending more dependence on single country will leads to economic disruption. So India has the mineral, but Korea has technology. But Korea doesn't have mineral, whereas India lacks technology. By combining this both country for India aspect, we will capture the market value, the economic market value. So rather than exporting raw ore, we can have the processing unit by technology transfer by Koreans. We can have the ready-made ship. We will make in India. There is a mission in India's Atmanik Bharat, means made in India, self-reliance. By this mission, India has a large land masses, where Korea lacks land masses too. Korea and India, if join hands together, both countries have the mutual benefit. They doesn't depend on China, and India will capture the market value. So both countries should move together. When Asian countries moves together and works together, we will have more dependent.
Very interesting argument, Vali. I think when you mentioned when Asian countries come together, we can build a new framework. This is actually something that it's in the conversations in international relations that if the if Asia comes together for technology transfer and different factors, Jartao, this is something which is coming up in the conversations very often that we can actually make something which is very unique to Asia, like an Asian framework to look into the geopolitics that we are talking about. Anyway, moving ahead, is this why you, in your argument, you are constantly trying to position India and Korea as very partners rather than competitors? Is this where it is coming from?
We both country doesn't greet each other because, as I said earlier, Korea lack population, youth workers, where India provide that. There is a recent attention gotten by India and Korea. There is a state, Tamil Nadu in India. In 2025 December, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin, they signed a investment rate shipbuilding. So it is the first Indian foreign shipbuilding project. As an Indian, we should about this event. So we don't have like we are not competitors. We are helping each other. Two Asian countries helping each other to develop their own countries, economic, social, political, in every angle. Both the countries. I think in Asian countries we don't have the competitor because we lack see one of the issue where other Asian countries has. No single Asian countries has fully occupied the value, but China played a major role. But if other Asian countries combine together, maybe we can improve the current status of China. We doesn't want to see China as a counterpart, you know, because it also Asian country. It create more technologies other compared to other Asian countries. But we always want the backup plan. That's the point. We should always have the backup plan. We can't depend on China or any other country, even in Asian country also. We should have trustworthy partnership. India playing the major role as a trustworthy partnership because India signed the first shipbuilding project with Korea, the company called HD Hyundai. So it is a proud moment to India, the first international shipbuilding project. So we gain. Korean trust. The trust is the important factor for partnership and bilateral relation. So we won the trust. We won the Korean trust. So we doesn't want to see as a competitor. We should have the compliment. We are helping for their need and they are helping for us need. So there is no competition. So there will always be mutual benefit. Yeah. Same goes to Japan too.
Thank you for putting it so succinctly together, Ali. As you're talking about other countries as well, most significantly with India and Korea, they actually had the 16 MOU signed at their recent summit back in April. And you talk about it in your article. One of your recommendations you mentioned is creating an India Korea semiconductor minerals partnership treaty to respond to the missed opportunity that this summit was. What do you think an actual formal process of a treaty would do in creating and fostering the relationship between these two countries?
In April, President Lee Jae-myung visited India and we signed 16 MOU. But we have the vague sign of MOU. We doesn't have the proper alignment of how this MOU is going to implement in both India and Korea, especially in semiconductor and mineral partnership. We don't have the proper structural framework. Since we are lacking, many MOUs still comes and goes, but we should have the strategic architecture, how we are going to implement. We doesn't have the roadmap. We just signed a MOU. So still we lacks a proper policy recommendation, a policy framework. So that's lacks in MOU. So I'm trying to build the policy oriented angle. So how the both the country will benefit each other. Like I mentioned deeply about how Korea need to transfer their technology to India and how India will process into semiconductor grade. So they will have the technological and expert. They will be come to India and they will train the Indian youth to how to process. Since we lacks from technology refinery system in India, as a national institute like IIT, these are the national institute. We are doing more R&D work. Same goes to Korea. They have the central institution for R&D. So, like my first recommendation is like both the institution, both government central institution R&D division, research and development division, will come together and they will teach to India how to process these grade material and how to manufacture into semi-graded chip. As I said earlier, 99.99% purity because it's so risky. We can't process as soon as possible, like 99.9% purity. It takes so long. So since we should carefully guided by the Korean peoples while they transfer technology to Indian youth and Indian researcher, in India, we have working on semiconductor research and development. So if Korea teaches how their refinery systems working, we will get the details to how to process the semi-graded chip material. So this is how I have framed 5 angle. This is one of the angle, like institutional partnership, both government, central government backed institutional research and development division. Yeah. It's one of the angle how to transfer technology to Indian youth imported as a semiconductor grade chip material. Yeah.
That's so interesting, Valli. I think since this conversation can just keep going on and on, but we have very limited time. So I would just, at the end, I would ask you to close up with one question. How do you see this particular partnership turning around, let's say, in the next 10 years with whatever you are working on? How is it going?
Yeah. Since Korea dependency will increase on China because there are no other choices, so they should take immediate step. Maybe they can depend 1 or 2 years, but they can't depend on lifelong. Lifetime they can't depend. That will put disruption in Korea semiconductor industry like Hyundai company, Samsung, LG. Since the mobile phone prices are increased, 15 to 20% of the mobile phone value is increased because semiconductor grade material is lacking. We have the import and export problem, and we have the maritime supply chain route. So it will cause a global vulnerability to Korea because they have the leading semiconductor industry world. World second semiconductor largest industry, followed by Taiwan. So they have no other choices. So they should take immediate action to have strategic partnership with a like-minded country. As I said, India has mineral, this will be the best option for Korea. to reduce their dependency from one dominant source. So this will be our next step when they successfully attained their semiconductor self-reliant rather than depending on China. It will mark a global event. So when two Asian countries are self-reliant in semiconductor rather than depending on one dominant country, so they don't have an option. So and this is the line behind the Korea current situation. They are running out of time. Work as soon as possible to capture the global value and their economic value also. Because if semiconductor value disturbed, the entire Korea economic value will be disturbed.
Thank
So
you so much for
much.
putting like that. You know how you said they are running out of time, and we are also running out of time. Jardao, do you have anything to say on?
Yes, actually. I just want to say first off, thank you to Valli for coming to talk about this critical issue with us. You had some fantastic insights on what was going on between these two countries. As we've heard today, the future of this AI technology, it's going to be shaped by laboratories, semiconductor companies, and it also needs to have the conversation around mining, refinery, and partnerships for processing. For our listeners that are here today, if you'd like to explore the ideas that we talked about with Valley more in depth, I encourage you to read the full article that she has written for the India Korea brief. It is called The Global Race for Critical Technologies, India Korea and the Semiconductor Mineral Nexus. And it was published in English. So please feel free to go check that out. We'll also link it in the description. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the India Korea podcast. And in our next episode, we will continue our conversation and perspectives. Thank you so much for listening. Bye bye.
Thank you for listening. Good night, everyone.